Hello, snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host Kevin, here with another episode of Angry Snowboarder Reviews. Today I'm going to be talking about the NX2 CX. So I rode these at Breck right mid-spring-ish winter, right as heavy winter was rolling into spring. And I rode it in the early morning, so it's still pretty firm out. Hadn't snowed super recently, so the snow was hard, it was fast, and I rode these on my K2 overboard, which comes in every size you need as long as it's a 165. So bigger board, real stiff tail, definitely something that you can use these bindings to get into, drive into, and see what these are really capable of. And I rode them with my DC tuck knees in a size 8. So the adjustability with flows is key. The function to these is heavily reliant on them being adjusted correctly. So I'm going to go over that first, just so you understand that process. And the easiest way to look at it with flows is starting from the top and moving down the binding. So there is a dial on the back of the forward lean adjuster. That's this little dial right here, and that's going to change your forward lean. You want your high back to sit flush to the back of your boot in its neutral position. So you don't want it to hit with the bottom first, and you don't want it to hit with the top first. Get it to sit flush, and while you're doing that, make sure your straps are completely loose. After you've gotten this one done, keep your toe portion completely loose, center and tighten up this upper portion. Once you've got that done, then you can snug down this lower toe portion. Moving through that process, I have found to be the quickest way to get to a good adjustment with flows in a nice balance of tight enough that it's going to perform the way you want it to, but not too tight that it makes it hard to get in and out of. Now, other adjustments, you have your cams on each side of the strap there. Flip those down, adjust your strap, lock them back up. You can adjust the high back onto the frame. It's a lengthy process. You have to take the straps off of either side in order to get to that bolt in order to move it, but once you're done with that, you don't ever have to touch it again. And that's kind of it for adjustments. The straps on this series is the Fusion strap, and these are unique to Flow. There is not any other binding manufacturer out there, that matters, that uses a single strap like this. So the whole idea behind this goes way back to the origins of Flow and when toe caps didn't exist, and they realized that toe straps were literally right next to ankle straps. So the concept behind that was connect them and you're going to get better wrap across your boot. That's where the reclining high back came from, was once you do that, how do you get in and out? But that's still the concept behind this single strap, is it provides more material on top of your boot to distribute that pressure and hold you down. And it does work pretty well. I definitely find that with the Fusion strap, there is less strap feel, so you don't have that really tight, grabby feeling that you normally get out of a regular two-strap binding, because there's just more strap there to distribute that pressure. The other benefit to that is normally when you're driving forward, in a regular binding, you're pulling up on that strap and just pushing down on your toes, basically. And all that you're really doing is pulling up on your adjuster and your ladder and just pulling into the frame. With flows, as you drive forward, these are super stiff, and because they're directly connected into this, as you drive down, it's pushing down on top of your toes. So it gives you a little bit extra response because this is all connected. Overall, I've always been super happy with the Fusion straps. I think they're solid. They're comfortable for me, and they work well. They wrap your boot really well. They don't really cause any gaps. They do take a little bit of breaking in to really get molded to whatever boot of choice you've got. But once that happens, maybe it takes 10 days depending on how hard you ride, they fit great, they feel really good, and they just disappear on top of your boot. And then the other benefit to it, and this is just the nature of the way flows work, as long as you are using the reclining high back, is every time you get into this binding, that strap is going to feel the exact same. And that was one of the other kind of contributing factors to why I started riding Flow in the first place. The ratchets on these are Flow's LSR locking ratchets, and they lock. That's kind of the big thing with these guys, and the reason for that is because you don't want your strap to move after you've got it perfectly positioned. Believe me, I've worked demos where somebody gets their Flows strap to move at another tent, and then that rep runs over to our tent panicking. I moved their straps and these guys are freaking out. So yeah, they don't really want to move. So they lock. That lock will wear out over time. So if you use these ratchets as your entry, eventually that lock isn't really going to do much. So just be aware of that, and just kind of as the nature of flows, the ratchets work fine. I've never really had a problem with the ratchets, but they are not the smoothest ratchets out there. They climb fine. That's not really the problem. The release, that's really where you're kind of getting a fault there, and it's partly just because of that locking mechanism. It just makes them a little bit sticky. So if you are trying to use these as your entry, you can. I recommend using the Highback. I think it's better. It's really what these are for, but you can use these for entry if you really need to, or exit if you really need to. And just know that if you use that over and over and over again, that lock is going to wear out. The Highback with the CX is Flow's new one single piece Highback. They introduced this on the Fuse as well, and it doesn't have that adjustable top panel anymore in that kind of three-piece construction where it had the lower loop, the upper kind of portion, and then the top panel. Instead of that, it's just one solid piece. And with this one, it is a carbon nylon composite, and it works really, really well. I really like this new shape. I think it hugs the boot a lot better than having that three-piece. That three-piece created some gaps, especially down on the heel, and it just didn't fit quite as good. I think this one fits a lot better. It fits a lot closer to your boot, and this material is super, super stiff. This is even more responsive than the GT series that has the carbon fiber top panel and the aluminum lower panel, because this is actually going to be laterally stiffer than that Highback. So this is going to be the lightest version that they make, as well as the most responsive and the stiffest version that they make. The ride feel on these is dictated by a couple things. One of the biggest is the under base padding. So the entire frame, which is aluminum, is covered by a urethane pad, and then the disc itself is covered by a foam pad. So by some other brands' calculations, this actually has a 0% base contact because none of the metal frame is actually touching the board. The other thing that they do with this is, you can kind of see it in here, there's this kind of hourglass-ish shape where the urethane is a little bit thicker and doesn't have that honeycomb to it. And Flow's been using this shape for a very, very long time. And what they do is, this is a lot lower as far as the aluminum frame is concerned, and then you have a lot thicker urethane where all the honeycomb is. What that provides is a little bit of movement to each corner, so that this binding doesn't have that massive, massive dead spot. So despite the fact that this has a very wide footprint and it is aluminum, it doesn't have that massive dead spot feel that you might think it does. It's still not going to feel like a mini disc or some of those other bindings out there that are designed to have that really loose feel on top of the board. It's certainly not what these are going for, but it just provides just a little bit of extra give into those corners so you don't feel completely cemented down on top of the board. The next thing is just that aluminum frame. So aluminum has its benefits, it has its drawbacks, it has its haters, it has people that really like it. So it just has that kind of more direct feedback style feel to it, so you're gonna feel what's going on. Now with the urethane under pad that also does have towers that come all the way up into your heel, it does ride really smooth, and I don't think it provides as much chatter up into your legs as some other brands do, but just know that it's not going to be as smooth as something that's got a lot of damping and uses a nylon frame. The last thing is going to be the candid footbeds with the EVA. So a little bit thicker on the outside, a little bit thinner on the inside, and that's going to provide a little bit of relief to your knees if you ride a little bit of a wider stance. For me, I don't really need the canning, but luckily with this foam, this style of EVA is a little bit softer, so if you need to press through it, it's not going to get in your way too much, so it didn't really cause any problems for me. The NX2 CX is built for your high-end rider, that person, that guy that's looking just for the best, the ultra responsive, the super supportive, and just that binding that's lightweight, it's got those exotic materials, and is looking to charge it, go fast, and go big. So far, out of every Flow that I've ever ridden, which is most of them for the last 6 years, or all of them for the last 6 years maybe, this might be my favorite. I really, really like this new one-piece Highback. I think it provides a much closer fit to your boot and a much just way more snug fit overall. And I really like the fusion strap. I've kind of gone back and forth on that. With this binding specifically, I think it works really well. And I think I prefer this strap to the hybrid strap with just the way everything else feels. And I like this NX2 frame. I've always really been a fan of the underbase padding and the way that they do those kind of four corners and that little bit of extra flexibility. So if I'm really looking for that binding that's going to provide me just that really strong freeride feel and something that's super, super responsive toe to heel, this is probably going to be one of the ones on the top of my list. Thanks for watching. This has been my review of the NX2 CX. What did you think? Has this been a binding you've been super excited about? Let's have a conversation. While you're doing that, make sure you click the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get notifications when this video is coming out. And if you're new around here, check out Angry Snowboarder VIP. I could tell you about it, but there's a fancy video. Click that, you'll get all the info you need. Thanks for watching and come back for my next review.